When one seed germinates into a plant, you know all that this plant one day will become a big tree, and the tree will give a lot of more fruits and seeds. And one day you'll be given a chance to germinate these seeds once again to make a big garden and full of trees. And Swami says, do not be in a rush to sow different seeds, different kinds of seeds, because one seed has not germinated properly. Together in one season, nurture one plant at a given time. Give it all your love and care. And to your surprise, one day you will find a beautiful garden has emerged, and each plant in it is healthy and strong. Each plant has spread its roots and established its domain. The seed is our devotion, the roots are our faith, and the healthy plant is the awakened soul. Swami says, anxiety is a disease that leaves you devoid of peace, and your mind races with thoughts of fear. It leaves you restless and agitated. Today, a lot of us suffer from this illness, Swami says. You are anxious first about our personal life, and then after your marriage, and then after that, your children's future. For your worry and anxiety goes on bothering you. You worry about your jobs when you get educated. Until you're educated, you worry about getting a admission into school or a college, and then your job, and then getting married, and then into the family life, and then some of you are even anxious. After all these comforts are sometimes blessed by Swami, you are many a time anxious when you visit even Swami at Prashanti Nilayam. You don't have Prashanti even when you come to Prashanti Nilayam. You are so anxious to go and stand in the queue, then which line you get to sit, and then you are anxious whether Swami will be coming for darshan, and then whether Swami will come in the line and give darshan. You are anxious for an interview with Swami, and also a Pad Namaskar, and after Pad Namaskar, an interview, and whether Swami will take your letter, whether Swami will talk to you. All these things will be going on our mind. Swami says, with the result, you double your anxieties, and then whatever anxieties you had had before you came to Puttaparthi, when you go back, you will double your anxieties and double your worries, and you want God, Prashanti, for which purpose you had landed. Fear arises when there is lack of surrender. You want me to run your life, but you hold your hands tightly your hand and you say, I have surrendered, Swami. Everything is yours. You please mend me. We don't allow Swami to mend us. Swami says, your mind thinks one, your word says another, leaving your actions confused. Your different identities filled in one person. Focus on what you truly believe. The biggest injustice you do to yourself is to deceive your own self. If you have chosen to be Godward, follow it. Follow it by mind, words, and action. When there is synchrony in these, you will be less confused and your anxieties will become a part of your past. And your best friends and your biggest enemies are all within you. They are not to be found elsewhere. They are both enclosed in your mind, your thoughts. When these thoughts speak to you, with me as their sole focus, they become your best friend. Make them become your best friend. They show qualities of true loyalty to you. They are filled with good intentions for you. Most of all, they do the important task of directing you to me. But when these thoughts speak to you, with you as their sole focus, then they become your biggest enemy. They hurt others, and most of all, hurt me, who is sitting in you. They create chaos and restlessness. You lose your sanity and sense of peace and get ashanti. And most important of all, you lose your way in this deep, dense forest of life and become an easy victim to the hunger of the wild, ferocious animals that surround you. And Swami has warned about it, and he has said, calm mind increase in stamina, enthusiasm and dynamism, relief from depression, better concentration and confidence. And one more quote, and then we go back to our story. And this one, Swami says, sorrow is the harbinger. Sorrow is the harbinger of joy. Mortal throes of anguish forward the birth of immortal being, but God wipes out all your tears. The only conscious existence in the flesh is error of some sort, some sin, some pain, some death. a false sense of life and happiness. Mortals, if at ease in so-called existence, are in the native element of error and must become diseased. Disease, Swami says, is a disease is a disease. That means you are not at ease. Disquieted, you are not in the proper calmness of mind before error is annihilated. The very circumstance which your suffering sense seems wrathful and afflictive. Love can make an angel entertained, unawares. And therefore, Swami has said, the weak will be as agitated as peacock feathers. They are ever restless, with no fixity even for a moment. They sway like a pendulum, this side and that side, once towards joy and the next moment towards grief. Here, some pause has to be made on one point. Fortitude is different from patience. Fortitude is not the same as patience. And patience is putting up with something and tolerating it, bearing it because you have no other way than and no other choice. Having the capacity to overcome it, but it disregarding it. That is the spiritual discipline, fortitude. Patiently putting up with the external world of duality, combined with inner equanimity and peace. That's all the path to liberation. Bearing all with analytic discrimination, that is the type of patience that will yield good result. Discrimination is the word, and it means the capacity to recognize what is called the nature of the objective world. That is to say, the world of objects that come and go, they are not eternal. All the present day problem will not go and last for long. Generally, man seeks only happiness and joy. He is so much used to happiness, when little bit of sorrow will depress him. Under no stress will he desire misery and grief. He treats happiness and joy as his closest well wishes, and misery and grief as a direct enemies. This is a great mistake. What is happening today in the corona world is same. When one is happy, the risk of grief is great. The fear of losing the happiness will haunt the man. Misery prompts inquiry, discrimination, self-examination, fear of worse things that might happen. It awakens you from the sloth and conceit. Happiness makes one forget one's obligations to oneself as a human being. It drags man into the inner reality and egoism, and the sins that egoism leads one to commit. Grief renders man alert and watchful, and therefore the misery highlights the value of happiness. You feel happy by contrast with misery. This is also reflected in Krishna's Upadesham to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita and as told by Swami in the Gita Vahini, and a translation from Davidson. And with this introduction, we go back to the glory of Ishwaramba. And who can describe and who can really talk much about the Ishwaramba, who is the mother of Swami, the Parameshwara, Sa Ishwara. And Ishwaramba is a daughter of a relative of Kondamaraju of Puttaparthi, and Kondamaraju is the grandfather of our Sat Sai Baba, and a relative of Kondamaraju, that is Mr. Subaraju's daughter, is Ishwarama. And she was born after Shiva temple was built by Mr. Subbaraju, and that's why, since she was born after the temple was constructed in Ishwara's name, or Shiva's temple was built, she was named Ishwara Amma. Therefore, Ishwaramma. Ishwaramma later, as it happened, became the Amma of Ishwara himself. And the Kondamaraju, as we all know, was a great personality and a great singer, a great stage actor, a great devotee of Sri Venugopala Krishna and Satyabhama. And he had two sons. One is Pedda Venkaparaju and another is Pedda Venkaparaju. And Pedda Venkaparaju became the father of Swami. And Pedda Venkaparaju, they lived earlier in the Puttaparthi was called the Gollapalli. And because the Gollapalli was like the Mathura and Vrindavan, the place where the Gopalas or the Gopalas were staying, and the Gopalas were there in that place, and then it became later Puttaparthi because a place where it was haunted by serpents and number of the what we call Puttara Uru. That means a lot of these snake pots, snake pits used to be there. And it was almost remembering Krishna's childhood place and where number of the cows were going on herding. And then it was a Gopala threw a stone at a serpent when it was coming and drinking the milk from one of the cows. And then that's why it got the curse. It also became called cursed place or cursed village. And later, when Swami was born in that, all the curse of that village was removed. And we have seen that Chitravati is called like Yamuna Tira Nivasi or Yamuna Tira Vihari. She, Krishna, Chitravati Tira Nivasi becomes she Sai Venugopala Krishna. And Puttaparthi became land of Pandits and also donors, nanis, and Ratnakara Raju was the Arsu from the Arsu dynasty, and he had a Venkavaduta who was a Paramahamsa, and he had told that in their clan, Swami Vishnu, Narayana himself will be Bharan, and he was called the Vairagya Chakravarti. And Sri Kondamaraju, that's why named his son, first son, the Pedda Venkaparaju, second son, Chinna Venkaparaju, and Chinna Venkamaraju. So Pedda Venkamaraju, after he became Venkavaduta, who had prophesied that Sri Narayana or Vishnu will be Bharan in their clan from the Ratnakara Vansha. And that's why that when Sri Pedda Venkamaraju married Ishwaramba, Saburaju's daughter, then they had 3 children, and one was the son and 2 the daughters. And the son was the Sheshamaraju, and the 2 daughters were Parvatama and Venkama. And Swami was born as the 4th child. And Swami was named Satyanarayana, and he was born on November 23, 1926, Ardrasta, the Kartik Somvara, the worship of Shiva. And when he was born, a lot of these musical instruments are already making sound ever since even he was born, before he was born also, and making good signs of that she certainly a divine avatar is going to be born in their house. And Ishwarama was a very devoted person and a very pious, gentle, because we have seen her until 70s, late 70s, when she used to come to Whitefield and even in Puttaparthi and all that. She was not at all being called or to be known as a VVIP or Swami's mother. She used to sit along with other people, talk with other people, like any other ordinary gentlewoman. And she used to sit like that, very simple woman. And she, when she married, and she was a devotee of Satyanarayana, Lord Satyanarayana, and Satyanarayana Puja, as is famous from everywhere. She was attending Satyanarayana Puja regularly. And even just before her birth, before her delivery, and the delivery of the 4th child, because she had prayed to Swami and Satyanarayana that if son is born to her, then she will name him as Satyanarayana. And that's how, after the Satyanarayana Puja and the Prasadam, the Swami was born, and that's why he was named Satyanarayana. And that is November 23rd, 1926, which we all know. And then later, Kondamaraju also was being a devotee of Krishna, and he built a temple in the name of Satyabhama. So Satyabhama became the local deity of Puttaparthi. And also we have seen Venugopala Krishna temple also being built there, because that stone which was thrown at the serpent on which they got the curse, later they said to wash off their sin, then they'll have to build a temple in the name of Venugopala Krishna from that very stone. And that's why we have seen the Venugopala Mandir also. And Swami Satyanarayana, from the time that he was born, we have seen that he was very fond of his grandfather, Kondamaraju. And he was even cooking for him when he became little older, and serving, taking care, and similarly caring for mother and sisters. Therefore, the attachment between the Sai Ishwarama and Swami is unparalleled. Because, first of all, Ishwarama was affectionate to everyone. Every other children and every other, not only their children, even the neighboring house and any person. And she was very affectionate and she was very fond. And Swami was also equally, Swami showed an example from the beginning as to how to treat their mothers. Swami used to say in many of his discourses, if suppose a person does not value or respect his mother, being a Sai devotee or even otherwise, he says he is not fit to have been born on this earth. Swami went to the extent of telling it very sternly. If one does not respect his mother and respect his father, then whatever he may achieve in this life, whether he becomes the president of the country, president of any other corporate, whatever it is, he says it's not right. He showed that abundant love and respect for his mother. And therefore, Ishwarama always responded that love and affection to Swami also. And therefore, that goes together with each other. And Swami grew up in that same environment and respect his brother, also respected brother Shashamalaju and sister-in-law, also where he grew up for some time. And he studied some up to some school classes, staying in their house, and he had a lot of difficulty, which we know, we have all heard about that. And Swami is again, uh, although you grew up in difficulty, he never complained about any difficulty to anybody. Now, only later on, when he moved back to his house, and then mother was also feeling a lot of difficulty in getting water from a lot of some distant place and all that. He was piteous, and he, although was studying in the school and all that, he himself used to go bring the water from a long distance, and he has seen the difficulty of the drinking water and bringing all that. And then when he was small also, Swami always used to tell his mother, whoever comes and stands before our house, in front of our house, and says, Bhikshan Dehi, and he used to rush immediately and offer them the Bhiksha or the food. And sometimes Ishwarama a little become afraid in a little affectionate way. Then she warned Satya one day, if you go on giving like this, then there is no much food left, and maybe you will not have something to eat. And really speaking, Swami even said, I don't mind. Even if suppose I have to give whatever is meant for me, I want to give it to the Bhikshaka or the person who had come before the house. And that's what Swami thought from the beginning. Not that whatever we are seeing later on, Narayana Seva and all that. He was a Narayana. Narayana born in the Narayana Avatara, offering Seva to the human. The human offering Seva to Swami is different. But Narayana offering himself the Seva, and that's what we have all seen how Swami was serving. And it was from the beginning, and for which Ishwarama was responsible. And Ishwarama never chastised him for anything. She knew that he had the godly qualities and the divine qualities of sprouting, and she was very affectionate. And only thing she was little afraid sometimes. Naturally, the affection of a mother is, even if the son is a IAS officer or even some prime minister or chief minister, the mother always thinks that her son or child is very small, and then he could be affected something. She is always worried about their welfare. And like that, any mother, she was also little worried about Swami, and she used to tell Swami, be careful, don't mix with more people, particularly when he went out of the house and declared his avatar on the October 20th, 1940, and saying that he does not belong to any family, and the entire family decides, and the bandhana has been removed. And then he declared that he is Shri Sai Baba. Even then, Ishwarama used to go and meet him and talk to him, and also requested him to come back to house. And then Swami said, no, I will be in touch with you, but I will not come back to house. And when he later decided to come back to house, then since a lot of people had started meeting him, he had to stay in the house of Colonel Subbamma, again a pious Brahmin devotee, and then she was very much attached to Swami. Swami used to say, I have two mothers. One mother is Ishwarama, like Devaki, and second mother is Yashoda. That like Yashoda in for Krishna, say Subbamma became the second mother, foster mother for Swami. And he was staying in the house, taking food. She was also serving food to whoever came to Prasanthi Nilayam to see Swami at whatever time it was. And therefore, that's a lesson for all of us. That the lesson is that whoever comes to your house as Atiti, because Shri Sai Baba has said many times, you offer Naivedya to my house, and when I really come to your house, you drive me away. He may come in the form of some pet animal, he may come in the form of some beggar, some form of some particular person. So I'm used to say, when I really come, you don't recognize me, you don't treat me. And then you say, Swami, come to my house. And then, what is the use? Your heart is not big. House may be big. What is the use of big house? Our heart is small, heart is narrow. And then later, Swami converted Subbamma's house in the ashram, and Ishwaramba continued to support Swami. And then only thing, one lot of visitors from other states started coming, and even some foreigners started coming. Swami, actually, Ishwaramba became very worried. She even warned Swami that Swami, that so many people are coming, they may take you away somewhere, they may harm you. Please don't mix with them, or please don't go with them. And then she took a promise from Swami, wherever you go also, then you ought to come and settle in Puttaparthi only. And that promise which Swami gave to Ishwaramba, he kept it up until the end. That's why Swami also had Samadhi at Puttaparthi only, at Prasanthi Nilayam. And therefore she became a very gradual devotee of Swami and was coming and sitting in darshan line like ordinary person in Prasanthi Nilayam and Whitefield for various functions. During birthday also, she used to anoint Swami's hair with oil for ceremonial bath, which we have seen in many videos, and also over had been the good fortune of seeing it live also. With Dr. Sri Kasturi's wife and Colonel Subbamma were the other two fortunate people who were permitted by Swami to do this. Swami had enjoyed even this taking ceremonial bath, being blessed by his mother. And Mother Ishwaram, Swami used to say, she is the mother of this body. Swami used to say, not mother, she used to say, mother of this body. And therefore, Mother Ishwarama, the mother of body of Swami, was afraid of many times the sisters and others. And Swami took a oath that he will always stay in Puttaparthi, he will not move. Like even Lord Krishna, who was born in Mathura, went to Vrindavan, and then moved away to Dwarka. He will not do like that, Swami promised. And then he kept up. And Ishwaramba was moved by the difficulties of village goers for drinking water and school, hospital, and such facilities which are far away in Bukkapattanam and even further away places. And therefore, once Swami started doing various activities, lot of visitors started coming. She asked Swami 3 boons. And Swami himself has revealed that the 3 boons which she had asked, and this even continued after she had Samadhi. Ishwarama, when he also took a Samadhi, later on she used to appear in the dreams of Swami. And she used to tell Swami and inquire about Swami's health and ask Swami that this is something which she wanted. She asked for 3 boons from Swami and coming into the dreams of Swami and after Samadhi also. And every birthday, Swami announced a lot of welfare programs, and Swami took the various projects in her commemoration. Because many of the things we have seen have been named after Ishwaramba. So many schools, hospitals, everything took the name of Ishwaramba. So what all development things we are seeing today. And that's why we have to remember Ishwaramba in that kind of spirit, in that kind of veneration and respect. And she used to direct Swami to attend to various difficulties of old people. That's why the old people's house came, for the aged people, for orphanages, for the already child left away somewhere, and widows' welfare. Lot of ladies whose husbands went away, or divorced, or died, for some widows' welfare, and Veda Parayana program, and we have seen free education in the high schools and the college and the MBA and MTech programs and Sai universities, the campuses, the women's college, and later into hospitals. And she asked for hospitals. One started general hospital for treating everybody free, and then super specialty hospitals in Puttaparthi and Bangalore. And all the operations, as we know, and the medical treatments are free. Nowhere in the world, let us say very, very drastically and very devotedly, that nowhere in the world such actions are being done. And then Swami's mega drinking water projects are started and bringing drinking water to the parts of the lands of Andhra Pradesh and even part of Chennai, and drinking water supply, pure filtered water. That was just not ordinary water, pure filtered water. And even Swami even said it is even better than Bisleri, which earlier the American were used to drinking only that, and now it was spread everywhere. And Swami said, in my hospitals, there will be no cash counter. There is only a Ganesha temple there. There will be a Ganesha mandir will be there. No cash counter, no bill counter, no advance payment, nothing. And all this thing because of the dreams, messages Ishwaramba gave to Swami, and Swami fulfilled each of the promises that he gave to Mother. And that's what Swami, although he said that he is not connected directly as a mother, father, and son relationship, but whatever the mother, like even Shankaracharya, whatever promise he gave to Mother Aryamba, he kept up. Similarly, Swami kept up all that thing, all in the name of Mother Ishwaramba. And it's all dedicated. And even we have seen the Balvikas program. The Balvikas program, many times programs are conducted on the Ishwaramba Day. On the Ishwaramba Day, Swami used to do some of the mass Upanayinams and lot of this initiation of Vatus, young Vatus into the Upanayinam and to make them as the Brahmacharis. And we have seen, and just as a remembrance, to remember my son Satyadeep had this Upanayinam blessing by Swami on the 6th May 1995 at Whitefield, when the Mass Upanayinam was done. Swami blessed, and we still remember it as our lifetime experience. And similarly, in 1889-90, when we were in Chennai, when Swami had come for Sundaram, and also for Abbotsbury, Swami used to give a lecture in Abbotsbury in the Mount Road, and there also a dance program was there, and in which my daughter Satyapriya had also participated in presence of Swami. And of all this, when we remember it, Swami used to conduct a lot of programs for the Balvikas, which became a movement in the name of Ishwaramba. And we all had to remember Ishwaramba for what all the development programs initiated by Swami. And a lot of mass marriages, the Tali Bhagya, and the Sri Vidya program, all this forest improvement, all these things became later established in the name of Ishwaramba and in her commemoration. And with this, we remember with respectful homage to Ishwaramba, Ishwara Amba, Swami's mother, divine mother, a glorious chapter in the history of our entire country itself. And with this, we move on to just a few points, because the other points are just a kind of a sum up of the story of Ishwaramba. See, Ishwaramba, although being illiterate and not much educated, but for being good, education is not required. Many times Swami used to say education intelligence may spoil a person instead of reforming him. So for today's little bit, a few words of topic, we have said formation. See, formation is starting something, forming a samiti, forming a group, forming a singers group, forming some kind of WhatsApp group, and forming a kind of a cohesive type of thinking people, and forming, starting, gathering. These are all the formation. And about Ishwaramba, in that way, she formed the initial value of humanness into everybody in and around her, And therefore, that's why the formation. First, we have to have formation of good ideas in our mind. Unless there's formation of good ideas, you can't proceed further. Once the formation of ideas come, it has to germinate and sprout further. And for that to happen, the information is the improvement of the formation of the ideas and collecting more and more information, more and more knowledge, more and more data. And then what we will do with information? Because we are known information technology, that's what IT is known. Then what do we know about that? What do we mean by it? That means collecting information or data collection is not by itself anything. It's okay data. But after that data collection and collating the data, and then what is that analytical interpretation for that, and how it is going to be useful for the mankind. And there, using the information for reformation. What is reformation? Reformation is once you have done a formation, then you add information, formation plus information. And then with that, reformation. That means reinforce the idea, the knowledge, the data, and the analytical collectivity. And with that, make it useful for the human mankind. And when it is useful, it is a reformation. Reformation of developmental project, of changing the idea from the initial idea to a better idea, better data collection, and better interpretation, and analytical interpretation, prediction, and messages to improve facilities and way of living, way of health life, and everything. That is reformation. And of reformation, yes, then where? Reformation at the human level. Then Swami says the next level is transformation. The transformation is from reformation to transformation. You have to transfer from the human angle, transform from the human angle to divine angle. And Swami says that is the purpose for which I have been born, for which this avatar took place. If you remain just a human angle, a good human being, fine. But from good human being to godly human being, that godly human being is the divine transformation. So Swami could transform Many times we are seeing the miracles from materials, one material to another material, one object to another object, and one bad person to good person, and good person to a godly person. That is the transformation of the highest order. And Swami says that's what should happen in all of us, from formation to information to reformation to transformation. And then, is it end? No, Swami said no. Swami's pledge was transformation. But after transformation, in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna has said, whoever is thinking of me, I will protect their welfare always. I transform them and the entire humanity. And then self-realization. The transformation then should lead to self-realization as to what we are, from where we have come, where we have to go. We should not regret, oh, we have to go, already we are aged, and we don't know when we will end. But self-realization, when you know who you are, why you have come, what is our role, how many more years, and how and when we should go away. This is knowing yourself Atma and yourself a part of Paramatma. That is the realization for which Swami is to say, you have to live until you do that. Earlier do it in this life, then no rebirth for you. If you cannot do it, then another birth, several births may have to follow. So understanding, experiencing, feeling, and merging with Sai, that is the Sai Bhakti. And for that is the purpose for all of us, and that is Sai relation. And with this, we are ending today's Sai Satsang. And Jai Sai Ram, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. One bhajan, and we are closing the session. Sai Ram.
Saira. Vighneeshwara Gananath Gajanana. Vighneeshwara Gananath Gajanana. Parvati Nandana Shubhanana. Parvati Nandana Shubhanana. Mangalamurti Shri Ganaraya. Mangalamurti Shri Ganaraya. Jaya Ganaraya Shri Ganaraya. Jaya Ganaraya Shri Ganaraya. Ashtavinayaka Shubhanana. Siddhi Vinayaka Shubhanana. Vighneeshwara Gananath Gajanana. Saira.
Sai Ram to all of you. Thank you very much. All the Sai devotees of Sai's person. And we pray Swami again for the continued welfare for all the people, and even under the corona surge, let us not bother and let our devotion surge to take out this corona surge. Sai Ram. Thank all of you.
Sai Ram uncle. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Sai
Sai Ram.
Ram to all.
Sai Ram.